Sting's debut in a commercial for the new 2K15 video game. I thought this commercial was fantastic. We had heard about the casting call in June. People thought, oh, this means Sting's going to be on Raw, but what they were looking for was an orchestra to perform, some Sting lookalikes. They were looking for some big, I think, muscular body doubles. I don't know what happened to the body doubles. My only guess is that they probably filmed more than one commercial. I heard the shoot cost like $200,000, although I think 2K paid for it, not WWE. Some ridiculous amount of money like that. I would have to think they filmed 2 or 3 different commercials that will air over the next few weeks. Maybe one of those commercials has a Sting body double. But it was the real Sting in the flesh here. They had the orchestra performing his old Crow music. From the first chord, it was awesome. And Sting, I think, lower. They didn't show him lowering, but you see a shadow lowering from a rooftop or a ceiling, and they stop playing. They all turn around, all the performers in the orchestra. They're wearing Sting masks or face paint, whatever it was. And then we see a shot of the real Sting. He didn't speak. It was very brief, maybe a 3-second shot. I thought it was very well done. It gave me goosebumps. It was really, really cool. People reacted to it. They kept the crowd noise in. Even before Sting appeared, I think from the moment they started playing his music, people started reacting, but it was when they all the members of the orchestra turned around and people saw them with the Sting face paint on, that people in the building went nuts. Then they showed Sting, and the only time they booed was when people realized, oh shit, it's just a video game commercial. They thought maybe it was a vignette for his imminent debut, and in fact it was not, and that's when they turned on the ad and they started booing it. So he got a reaction that you would not expect the guy to get, who has not one time ever stepped foot in a WWE ring. So clearly people know who Sting is. Maybe it's all the WCW footage on the network. You know, all the kids and all the younger people who don't know of him now know of him. You know, I don't know. They haven't done a DVD for Sting. They haven't talked about him very much. But I never once doubted that Sting was going to get a big reaction for his first appearance, because he's a big star. Most people know who he is. And you know what? Go back even before this video game commercial. Go back. It was either last year or the year before. I think it was last year. Would have been shortly after Hulk Hogan left TNA. It was one of the pay-per-views, maybe the pay-per-view in October. It might have actually been the Battleground show in October. They were doing these interactive fan polls where you can vote on who you think is the greatest world heavyweight champion and who you think is the greatest WWE champion. And in one of the polls, Hulk Hogan was an option. I think Hogan won the poll. And maybe it was for the United States title. Who was the greatest U.S. champion of all time? Sting was one of the options, and Sting won. Hogan and Sting won. And both of them were in TNA, or Hogan had just left TNA. So Sting won the poll, and that was back in October. So I always knew, people know who the guy is. You know, he's just this iconic figure in wrestling, and when he appears, he's going to get a big pop. And this was just a video game commercial, and he got a big pop, and I'm sure that, you know, the day that he sets foot in an arena for the first time, he's going to get a great ovation. And it's going to happen. I mean, I don't care whether, you read reports he still hasn't signed, but he's close, or he probably hasn't. You know, I believe that. I believe he hasn't signed a wrestler contract yet. He has some other contract with 2K, and he's probably still negotiating and talking to WWE, and maybe wants a little more money than what they're willing to give him. But he wants to come in, and they want him in. And you heard the audio I played from that Triple H interview with Michael Cole at the beginning of the podcast. Triple H would not be doing interviews on .com, teasing people that, well, if it's best for business, we'll get Sting inside a WWE ring. I mean, Michael Cole flat out asked him, okay, enough about the video game. When or, if we will ever see Sting inside a WWE ring. They wouldn't even ask the question if they didn't think they either had him or we're going to bring him in. Don't worry. It may be a while, but we're going to bring him in. So he's coming in. He's going to work a WrestleMania match next year. I have no doubt about it. Maybe he'll even get his Hall of Fame induction next year. The Sting DVD's already being worked on. He's coming in. And I think and not only is he coming in, but Sting has done interviews this week to promote the video game and has outright said that he wants to come in. He has outright said that he wants one match with The Undertaker and then he wants to retire. He said this before. He's still harping on it. He says, I want to come in, I want to wrestle one match. WrestleMania next year sounds like a great place to do it. and I want it to be against The Undertaker. He said, I don't know if he's done or not. I don't think he is, and I really want that match with The Undertaker. So the question I pose to everybody listening, Sting's coming in, he's wrestling a match. He wants The Undertaker. Maybe The Undertaker is done. Maybe WWE doesn't want to do that match. Maybe Vince knows something we don't. That's why he said, you know what, the streak is ending this year. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's done. He saw something we didn't, and he knows that Undertaker is done. I mean, who knows? But what Sting match intrigues you the most? I know a lot of people will say, well, no Sting match intrigues me. He's too old. He's going to be 56. He's broken down. I don't want to see him wrestle. Pretend like you don't have a choice. He is going to wrestle. I got a gun to your head, and you have to pick an opponent. What opponent would you prefer to see Sting in the ring with at WrestleMania? One last match next year. Is it Undertaker? Is that the biggest marquee match they could do with him? What about Triple H? You know, I'm listening to Triple H in that interview talk about Sting, and I'm getting a vibe here like that might be a possible match. If Undertaker isn't going to wrestle, maybe they could do Sting and Triple H. You know what? I wouldn't mind seeing that match. I think that match would have some marquee value to it. And that's a match that would at least allow Sting to go out a winner. Because I think if Sting and Undertaker have a match, Undertaker needs to win that match. Undertaker needs to, if he's going to have one more match coming off that horrendous match with Brock and a loss, he deserves to end his career with a victory. I'm sure Sting would have no problem, losing to The Undertaker. I mean, I've said this before. If you're going to do a Sting-Undertaker match, the story is right there. You know what I mean? Undertaker is done in his mind. He's finished. Sting says, not so fast. You've got one match left in you. It's going to be with me. Undertaker says, no, I'm not doing it. He cannot be convinced. Eventually, he is convinced under the provision that Sting agrees to this being both of their final matches. And you go into WrestleMania next year knowing that no matter what, you are witnessing the final Undertaker match ever, and you are witnessing the final Sting match ever. And that way, between that and the fact that the streak is over, so you don't have that, monkey hanging over you anymore. You don't have that 800-pound elephant in the room. Well, of course he's going to win. He's undefeated. Well, he's not undefeated anymore. Now you don't know so much whether or not he's going to win or lose. And so at least there's some element of what's going to happen. Are they both going to knock each other out and they're like a last man standing kind of double DQ thing, which I think would be stupid. No, I think Undertaker should go over and he should go out a winner. So is that the match you want to see? Do you want to see Sting and Triple H? Do you think that would be a better match? What about Sting and The Rock? There was one time many years ago, although this was a long time ago, like a decade, that Rock had floated the idea maybe of working a match with Sting at WrestleMania. Rock was always looking for big opponents to go up against. There was a rumor that Rock had floated the idea of Randy Savage. Now, I don't know if Randy Savage physically would have even been able to do the match, and I don't think he realized how persona non grata Savage was with Vince McMahon at the time, but it never got that far because that would have been for WrestleMania 21, and that was a few months before is when Rock's contract expired. WWE forgot to extend it, and they just let his contract expire, and that was what caused the rift between Rock and Vince McMahon. He felt very offended by that, like they were sending him a message, like you're not important anymore. And he went away for many, many years, and he never did wrestle at WrestleMania 21. But at one time, he was interested in doing a match with Sting. They could still do it. Rock was doing interviews this week saying, yeah, I'd love to wrestle another match. I just have to find the right marquee opponent. Sting is not a mainstream name. Sting is not even as mainstream as John Cena is. So if Rock is looking for a mainstream name like a Brock or a Cena, it's not going to happen with Sting. Sting does not have that mainstream appeal. But for wrestling fans, I don't know. Is that a match that excites you? Sting and The Rock? What about Sting and John Cena? That would be a huge match. Cena would have to win. For all the people that John Cena has beaten and careers that have been stalled as a result, the idea that Sting would be the one to beat John Cena cleanly at WrestleMania just seems wrong to me. So Cena would have to win, and I'm sure that would just make people's heads explode. That would be a big match. What about Sting and a younger guy like Bray Wyatt? I think a Sting-Bray Wyatt match of all the new guys on the roster, the up-and-coming guys, he's the one that would make the most sense. People love to talk about dark characters and dark promos. I think that's what kind of brings people around to this idea of Undertaker and Sting. It's really the only common thing between them. I mean, they, at one time anyway, had these very dark characters and these dark entrances. And I guess you could say that both guys are kind of the franchise player of their respective company. Sting and Wyatt, kind of a similar thing, right? Wyatt comes out, he cuts these creepy promos. Sting hasn't really played the Crow character in a long, long time. He wasn't even the Crow in TNA. I don't care what face paint he was wearing. We have not seen Crow Sting, I'm going to say, probably since 1998. Because it became Wolfpack Sting, right, with the red face paint. I mean, Crow Sting really ended in 98. What is that, 15 years? That's a long time. Actually, probably 16 years by now. But I throw that out to you. If you had to make a choice, who would you prefer to see Sting against one last match of WrestleMania next year? Taker, Triple H, Rock, Cena, Wyatt, somebody else I'm not thinking of? I would think those are the biggest names you could do. Maybe there's somebody else. But, I'm looking forward to seeing him. I think even if he comes in, does the one match, and he hangs it up, I think you could keep him around as a character. I don't know what he would do. I don't really have any interest in reprising the GM character. I don't even think Sting should be on TV every single week. But he's done some of the best promo work of his career in the last few years in TNA. I mean, he was always good. He's always good on the microphone, but I don't think I saw promos from this guy as good as what I saw from him in TNA when he was doing the Joker Sting character. It was incredible. And it doesn't matter how old you are, you can always grab a microphone and cut a promo. So Sting could be 60 years old, out there cutting promos better than 85% of the roster that they have now. I hope they find a role for him and can get him some TV time, because I think he can end up being a good character on the show, just not as an in-ring performer.